Hello, my name is Jasmine, and this is my storytelling assignment. To get right into it, the first event I went to was a baptism church session, which was for my brother that went on over spring break, which was a person from a deacon from the St. John Bosco Church came to move. We had the session at St. James Church because the church St. John Bosco was going over remodeling, so they had to take it to another place. The event began kind of iffy, I want to say, because we didn't know. We got there at the time the deacon told my family, and we were there. We were outside the church, and because it was early morning, it was a little chilly, and we didn't know. My family never gone to that church, so we didn't know what door to use, where we were going in, or even where the deacon was. And we were waiting outside for like 30 minutes. It was a whole thing. My mom was calling the deacon, asking him where he was. And eventually he opened the door after like 30 minutes. We got there, we were waiting outside, like all my family was there. And that was like how it started. And then when got inside, we all sat down because the only people who the we were the only ones who had a baptism session that day. And usually, like for Catholics, they have 5 to 6 kids being baptized at the same time, and it was just us that time, that session, and we had to wait for him another 20 minutes for him to get in his like official robes and get the basin. I think it's called, where they have the holy water and they have to pour it over my brother's head. So that was kind of didn't start off great. So we were like, okay, when are we gonna start? And like we were told we have to get there like 8, and started like the whole church, not church session, but the baptism session, like at 10:30 ish. It was a whole like it started off with us like feeling kind of not ripped off, but it felt like that. The thing about the deacon though was that he apologized. He was like, "Oh, like I just got here. This is my first time at this church." And with us just being the only ones having a baptism session that day, the deacon, instead of being at like the front and center behind a podium, where usually like the pastors or the fathers would be standing behind a podium and like reciting things off a book, he stood right in front of the first benches. They're in front of directly my brother, my parents, and his my brother's godparents, and what he started reciting things. The thing with the deacon was that he had the book where he had to recite things because that's how it went, but he didn't always look down at the book. He would look up and he would ask them like the crowd, which was my family, questions. He wasn't scared to like crack jokes and ask not rhetorical questions but questions in general, where he would give them the chance to answer on like what does baptism mean for like my brother, what does it mean for your family, what does it mean in general. And it was this whole thing where it brought the whole environment to come together for this session, because it's a very intimate session, especially for Catholics, especially for my family because they're also really religious. And that's the one thing I really liked about the session, was that he he didn't keep it fully professional because it was early in the morning. Who's gonna really be paying attention to a session? And he acknowledged that, and he knew, he was like, okay, we gotta keep. There was moments where he like, I know I have to keep the moment up, and then there's moments where he has to bring it back down and be like, okay, we're in church, we're having a special moment. And the thing about the deacon was that because he was just standing in front of the first bench, which is a pretty long bench in churches, he didn't move around a lot because he had to stand in front of my brother because it was my brother being baptized. And but the thing is that he would walk to my parents and like have eye contact with them and ask them, make them recite their promises because that's what they had to do, and he would go out to my brother's godparent and be like, okay, this is your promises, this is what you recite to do, and he would encourage the rest of the family to come around and not just stay in their seats. Would I encourage them to come around and not be scared to record the moment, and that's what I really liked, is that he embraced letting us record the beautiful moment, because it's this whole thing with like phones and churches, and he was like, this is a special moment, he wants us to remember it. And that's the one thing I really liked, is that he wasn't grumpy about it or crass about having phones, especially because in like older religious places they're like, oh, no phones, no this, no that, and he didn't do that. He embraced it, in fact, and I really like that. The thing about this deacon is that he kept eye contact. He wasn't scared to like look at me, my sister, and my grandma who was sitting right next to me, or look at my uncles who were behind us. But that's the only thing. He didn't really move around. He did use his diaphragm a lot. He had a lot of emotion in his voice, and I could we could tell that he's done that before. He's done sessions like these before, especially for like kids. And there's certain ways you have to talk to a kid, especially if you want them to understand what you're talking about, or especially if you want them to recite something back to you. And it was like he knew how to handle a situation, especially with a kid, and that's what really not settled us, but like brought the moment down. We're like, okay, we can trust this person for an intimate moment like this, and it just, it gave us that chance to let him take the role of leader, and it give us that moment to step back and let my brother have his moment. The only thing that could have been improved was the timing, because it was that whole time management thing where we didn't have a session. I mean, a set time, and like we had to wait for him. And overall, the event was really not short, but it was a short session where he immediately got. It was short and sweet. He got to the point, but he also let us embrace, not embrace, like mellow in the moment, and let us like embrace what was going on. Like immediately after like the session, after like he got my family to come around the basin and watch my brother get baptized, like have the holy water poured over his head. He's like, okay, like you guys can take pictures in here, just let me know when you guys are leaving so I can close up, like I can start cleaning up. And he's like, yeah, like we can take pictures. And I really liked how he encouraged the intimate moment. He didn't push away, he didn't create like this barrier between us. He kept it going. Overall, it was a pretty good event. Okay. The next event I went to was a Heckler's Happy Hour comedy show at Lincoln Lodge. That was directed by Claire and Katie. I think Katie was the only one who went up on the stage. It wasn't a stage. It was an inch off the ground wooden platform. The thing I noticed about Katie was that she used the whole environment. She wasn't scared to keep the mood up. The three main things I noticed about Katie is that she used her um, her her environment. Sorry, she used the mic stand. There's a time where the mic stand actually came apart in two, and she just kept like going with the session. She didn't let that deter her or stop her, and she would like talk about she even like her husband was the one with like stage crew, and he came up and he's like fixed it, and she's like, yeah, like I love my husband. She talked about his his big dick. It was for some reason um that was a big topic in that session in that event, which was like sex and like kinks and stuff. For some reason that was the biggest thing in that event, which I noticed. The thing with Katie is that she used also the stage. She had these big boots where she would stomp on the ground, and she would like it would bring all the attention back to the stage, back to the person who was talking, and it was beautiful. They had this light shining directly at the person who was speaking, and it was like a whole like a spotlight type of thing. The third thing I noticed about Katie was that she did have a lot of interactions with the um the the features, is that's what they call them, the features. Like every time she would introduce somebody, they would give them she would give them a short small introduction, which was hilarious. And she would use she would face bump them, hug them, and like be happy that they were there. And she had like this uplifting mood about her. She had a nice voice where she brought all the attention to her. But the thing is that I think she talked too close to the mic to the point where I couldn't really hear her because she yelled so much into the mic. There was a point where like she even stood up on her toes and started like screaming into the mic. It was kind of that's what kind of like I was like, okay, I can't hear what she's talking about, but the vibes are there. There was four speakers for this event, which were the people who were getting heckled at, and overall they each had their ups and downs. Um, the first person, V, I think is her name. She was really drawn in at the beginning to herself. She didn't really, know what she was walking into. But what I heard is that it was her first time having a public speaking session. But she was really drawn in. She would look at her. They all of them had a note with them, like a piece of paper that had what they wanted, the idea of what they wanted to talk about. And she initially started looking at there, and then once people started heckling at her, she started jumping from topic to topic, and she eventually got into the vibe enough where she looked at every single table and tried asking them questions and encouraged them to talk with her because it was just a few of us in there. It was a whole thing. I really liked how the it started getting into it slowly. The next person is Liz, and Liz came in with a big bang. They go by them. They started talking about who they were as a person, like basic a basic introduction to what who they are as a person, and I really liked that. They used a lot of hand gestures, especially because they were talking about like their body a lot. So they used a lot of hands to like signal at certain parts of their body or like talk to certain people in the crowd. That she would sorry They would point at a certain person in the crowd and be like, oh, like I want to talk to you, or I want to talk to you next. And the thing with like the spotlight is that they had to cover their like eyesight like this so they could see who they're pointing at. And that's the one thing I noticed. It was like it kind of like it threw us off because I was like, okay, they can't see type of thing. And I feel like that's what really helped them a lot of people because they didn't. It gives them that like, okay, I can't see people's faces type of thing. If they can't see me, I can't see them type of thing. No, if I can't see them, they can't see me. Yeah. The next person who went up was Matthew. Matthew was he set a weird vibe because it didn't look like he knew what he was going up for. And it was like, okay, there's this guy who's talking about why he's single. And I was like, okay, weird, he talked a lot about a rape van, and I was like, okay, weird. But Matthew he made a lot of eye contact with every single table, and he had these big like dilated eyeballs, and I was like, okay, this man is definitely high. But yeah, he just stood in one place, unlike Liz, who would use the stage, use the microphone stand, use there was a stool right next to them. Matthew and Vi, the usually just stood in one place. No, Matthew mostly stood in one place, and then it's just like it set a weird vibe to the place. I didn't really like his session. The next person who went up was Jarrell. He went up silently, not silently. He just didn't know what to start with because I think he immediately started thinking people were gonna start heckling him, and he let us know that he was high while he was up there, and I was like, okay, that gives us an idea of like who we're learning about. But the thing with Jarrell was that he stuck to the middle of the room, like the people who were in the middle of the room, because there was two people right in front of him, and he just started talking directly to them, and he didn't really talk about, talk to anyone else on the sides of the room. And there was a group of ladies behind those two people, and he, like, it was just a direct thing where he just talked to them, and it was this thing where he was leaning on the wall and stuff, and I was like, okay, this sets a kind of like mellow vibe, like it feels like we're coming down, especially because I think Jarrell was the last one, so I was like, okay, it's coming down, it's we're slowing down a little bit, and it just got kind of boring at a certain point because Jarrell didn't really use his hands till the end of his session where he stood up from his chair because he actually sat down on the stool, and he just started, he did crack jokes. His jokes were really good. It's just like he didn't really have an interactive session like the rest of them did. Like the rest of them would look at every single table, have eye contact. Jarrell just looked directly at the people he was talking to, which was just the middle. And that's what it was like. Okay, it drew me back for the moment. I was like, okay, there's, you know, we're getting to the end. The thing I noticed about this event was that I really liked how Katie, the director, used a flashlight to tell the people, the features were like, okay, your time's up, like you have to get off in like 5-10 minutes. It was kind of distracting because it was just a dark room and the only light was going straight at the person who was talking, so it was a little bit distracting, but it was a good way to indicate, okay, your time's up. But other than that, this event was not my favorite, but it taught me like a lot of these people, even if they do have a lot of experience in public speaking, they come into these different situations not knowing what to expect and having like different grounding things, like how some people come in shy, some people use the mic stand to ground themselves, some people just don't have a good story, and then like some people just don't do well, but overall it was a learning moment. The last event, or it was an online session, that I did was is called A Really Repo Time by the streamer Your Pal Ross, who I've watched for a really long time, especially their YouTube channel. The thing with this streamer is that he starts his streams in the middle of a game, and it kind of sets the mood where it's like, okay, we don't know what he's doing, who he's playing with, or like what's the whole like set plan. Like usually some streamers are like, okay, this is what we're gonna have this stream, and this is how long it's usually gonna take. And Ross, or the streamer, usually is like, okay, he just starts talking, he just starts his streams in the middle of the game, especially this stream, which was just a short one. Usually his streams go on for like 3 hours, but this one was like almost an hour and 30 minutes. And he just started in the middle of a game. The thing about this creator, especially in this video, what I noticed throughout his gameplay is that he keeps a very intimate, not intimate, but like a close conversation with his chat, because there's not a lot of people who watch his streams, only like 100, and usually they don't like type in the chat or anything. But he does have these moments where he thanks every single person who like not donates but gives him money, and he has this I forgot what it's called, like an avatar in the corner of his screen where it just like follows his movements in real life, and it's just his avatar, his like his persona on the internet. And it's really cool how it gives us an idea of like who what he's looking at, and like it gives him an expression, especially if he doesn't really like showing his face. The thing with Ross is that he's usually the comedian of the group, and he doesn't, have a ongoing thing where he can't be put on the spot, but he does funny things. And he there's times where he does when he's in a big group with his friends, and he's not playing with them and he goes off and does his own thing in the game, he starts talking, like he talks to himself a lot. Like he's talking to his stream, his chat, and mostly the people in his chat or his friends who like chiming in and like it's almost like he's on a video call with his friends, and it's relaxing because it's just a person talking about their life. And but there's these times where he just was really quiet. He draws into himself, and he doesn't he doesn't talk. And it's just like he's more of a persona that he makes for his friend who usually is recording those sessions for his own YouTube channel. And it's just like he's just there streaming just for the fun of it, which is which is the whole point of it. But it's just like, oh, you're not streaming for wanting to stream. You're streaming because you have no other option but to be in a recording session with your friend, you know. And it's just like, oh, it feels like he detaches himself from who he is as a person, and it's just like you could improve that part of yourself. Overall, the stream was really short. I didn't I liked how he does do interactiveness with his chat. He's really not intimate. I don't know. There's no other word for me to put other than intimate. But he has these one-on-one sessions with people who are constantly in his chat. He's like, oh, like, how was your day? Or like, are you? I hope you feel better if someone in this stream is leaving and stuff like that. And he usually has this monotone voice unless he's like laughing, and even his laugh is pretty monotone. So it's just like, I don't know. I feel like it's kind of grounding, but at the same time, if you're looking for something entertaining, he's not it. What is it? What the overall vibe of this stream was really like short, short and sweet. I was like, okay, he's just there to record a little bit of fun, especially because it was just his close friends he's playing with. He's known these people for really long, so I'm like, oh, I'm just watching a friend play with his friends. Like a friend, sorry, a person play with his friend and just recording it for the funsies, you know. Overall, I really like the streamer, but this video was not what I expected it to be. Now to go on to to briefly talk about my experience in the semester for public speaking. What I liked what I liked about this class is that you slowly just have to get into it. Like you can't just be like, okay, I'm just gonna slack off on every speech. You're Even if you don't want to, you're gonna get to know these people on a really not personal level, but you're gonna have not I want to call them acquaintances, but it's like, okay, like I can do my own thing around these people. It gives you that comforting environment. The thing I didn't like is just like there's nothing really I didn't like other than just you don't have the chance to sit down and like take a deep breath. Once you start doing your speeches, you're gonna keep on moving. There's no chance for you to be like, okay, I'm gonna take a mental health day. You can't do that. If your time is to go, you go now. There's no other option. Like you don't have the chance to sit down and take a breather. What stuck out to me was that you're gonna say, oh, I hate this class. Like I hate that I'm gonna have to talk to people. You're gonna hate it, but that's what you're gonna have to do. There's no other way to say it, but they're gonna have to do it. Um, other than that, it's just like the what you're gonna learn in this class is just don't you're gonna these people are gonna give you the confidence to do your own thing. You're gonna notice that these people just are gonna do their own thing. They're nervous in their own right. They're not gonna care about what you do or how you do your speeches or how you act in that class. They're gonna worry about their own speech. They're not gonna be like, okay, um, I don't care. Oh, I don't like how this person did their speech. No, they're gonna be like, okay, what do I have to do to my speech to elevate it, or what do I have to do to my speech to get that good grade? And it's that where it's that thing where it brings you down to reality is like it's not all just about me. there's other people who are feeling the same thing as you. And that's what I feel like we don't notice at the beginning of this class, is that you're not the only one that's nervous. All the rest of the people in this class are nervous, even if like they're more talkative or they're more expression, like they're more expressionate. No, these people are gonna get nervous, especially after everything. And like just know that in this class, like you're gonna have the chance to breathe before your speeches, but it's just like you have no other choice but to get into it. Thank you.